Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm back. I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy, and today is going to be a great day. We are empowering to disappoint. Okay. Everyone out there who can relate to the terror and fear of disappointing or hurting someone else's feelings, right? I mean, I'm raising both hands here. All my people pleasers out there who will do anything to hurt somebody else's feelings, bend over backwards for other people constantly. I'd love for you to hear this beautiful quote from Glennon Doyle. Just receive this for a moment. Every time you're given a choice between disappointing someone else and disappointing yourself, your duty is to disappoint that someone else. Your job throughout your entire life is to disappoint as many people as it takes to avoid disappointing yourself. Said by the Queen, Glennon Doyle herself. Oh my gosh. I remember this patient, sweetest little girl, years and years ago. Her family came in and they were very eager to have her treatment with our office. We had treated the older daughter, beautiful experience, smile was exquisite. It was such a great and enjoyable relationship with the family. And this younger daughter came in her new patient exam, it was very clear from the panoramic radiograph that she had generalized root blunting. This idiopathic, it happens every now and then. We can't explain it. She'd had no ortho before, just these all her roots look a little blunted, a little shortened. And we know from research that if we start putting excessive forces on those teeth, those roots are going to get shorter faster and faster. And she had quite a complex bite, so we had to actually spend a little bit of time. It wasn't just less than a year treatment. This was going to be a little bit longer than that. And we knew we'd have to use very gentle forces. And the gentlest, most controlled forces that I know of in my hands was a liner treatment. So I said, this is going to be great. She's going to have a beautiful smile. Her sister was a phenomenal, very responsible girl. We're going to treat this case with Invisalign. I highly recommend that over braces for all these reasons. And I explained and I showed them the roots and I told them about forces as much as I could. And right? We all have patients who have certain expectations. And it doesn't matter how much education, compassion, how many consultations we have, how many different ways we can say something. Sometimes, as humans, as we all do, we get an idea in our minds and we will not change our mind about it. And that's how these parents felt. She was going to have traditional braces and nothing else. And so I realized this was a moment of disappointment. It was uncomfortable. They kept pushing back. But as so many of you know, I had learned throughout my career that I could not allow my patient's treatment to dictate, or my patient's opinion to dictate their treatment. They come to us because we are the experts. And sometimes the news is uncomfortable to hear. Sometimes we have limited treatment options. Sometimes we have limited outcome possibilities because of the human body. And that is why we do the work we do. That is why we go for the education. That is why we spend so many years and so much money on the education that we keep perpetuating throughout our career with continued education. And that need in that moment to disappoint the family was apparent. I couldn't let them dictate the treatment. Because I knew, it's almost like you can have a little foreshadowing, a little forecasting into the future. Oh my gosh, if I go down this route, I know in my gut the forces are too strong for these teeth, and she's going to have worsened root resorption. And is that something I'm going to want to manage? Or am I going to stick to what I know to be true and allow for them to be disappointed so that I'm not disappointing myself? Because how many times have I changed my mind on treatment plans only for it to come and bite me in the butt? It's interesting. I was just going to say, I remember saying this phrase and I don't like it. I just don't like it, but it's one we hear all the time. it's no good deed goes unpunished. I think my dad used to say it. And we tell ourselves that no good deed goes unpunished, but it's not the good deed. That's not it. It's in that moment where you choosing to not disappoint someone over the very likely possibility that you were going to be disappointing yourself. Were you maybe not in control this whole time, but that choice of putting other people's needs ahead of your own took precedent. We do this in so many areas in our life. As parents, sometimes it's a little more clear, and sometimes it's not, especially as we're entering the teenage years, right? And we realize, many of us parents realize we can't parent the way we were parented. That's not an option here. There's too much trauma. There's too much pain. Parenting is a whole new world nowadays, right? So sometimes it's not so clear. And guess who's got to get disappointed every now and then? Our kids. It's necessary. And they learn from disappointment, as we did. There's skills to be learned there. There's huge strengths to be attained, new ways of living life, new empowerment over your own life when you realize, oh my gosh, the whole world's not going to always bow down to me, but I get to choose how I respond. That's the power, right? But we're never going to get the opportunity to choose how to respond if we don't experience the disappointment. So for a moment, I want you to just entertain the fact that when you are disappointing others, could it actually be a gift? Maybe that's the first time that person's been disappointed in that way. It's an opportunity for them to have greater insight over their own empowerment, over their own choices, over their own voice inside their own head. That's the same with kids. My daughter the other day, she loves delicious things. I get it. I do too. And she had some great ice cream that day. And then that night, her brother came home with some chocolate. Now she wanted the disappointment of, no, we've already enjoyed some delicious ice cream today. We're not going to also keep indulging with more and more and more. Oh, the disappointment is so much. Once again, there's the learning opportunity. But when we put our own needs last, we burn. So how often do we do that for your team, your patients, your friends, your family? So many times, those of us in medicine and dentistry end up being the most successful in our families, the most highly educated, the most financially stable, and oftentimes, that makes us a great resource for other people to look for help and support. And sometimes we need to be okay with disappointing. That need for somebody else to feel good is so deep and true because we're drawn to it. It makes so much sense. It's why we're in this profession. We're drawn to helping, serving, healing, making you feel better, bringing you out of pain. Makes so much sense that your first instinct would be, you know what? I don't really need that morning off. I put that time aside for myself, but yeah, okay, I'll do the thing. But let's remember the words of Glennon Doyle. Your job throughout your entire life. And I'm going to take that entire life and I'm going to expand it, but let's just read that line again. Your job through your entire life is to disappoint as many people as it takes to avoid disappointing yourself. Imagine this, 3 days away from work, 3 days away from your regular life, from your family, from the day-to-day hustle and bustle, to just rest and reconnect with you. Here's the truth. Nobody knows you like you do. Nobody knows the joys and the sorrows and the fears and the frustrations and the stresses and the overwhelm and the exhaustion and your patience and your team and your family. Nobody knows what you're going through better than you. Nobody knows what brings you joy and fuels you and fulfills you. Nobody knows your dreams and desires like you do. And the secret to how to access that beautiful wisdom inside of you, the guru inside of you, waits for you at the Empower Her retreat. This incredible retreat happening this October 17th through 20th is an opportunity for you to fall back in love with yourself, to identify your directional compass, and to lean into trust. self-trust, the trust of that inner wisdom. www.empowerherretreat.org. Join us there. Sign up. There are only a few spots left. This is your opportunity to change the direction of your life. Entire life isn't just in terms of timing, like for this segment of time and that segment of time and now and then later and when you're older and when you're younger. But entire life, I'm going to also take to mean all the components of your life, not just in your dental office, but in your home and in your car and in your work life and in your home life and in your family life and in your extended family life. So maybe looking towards the holidays, you're going to disappoint somebody. Let that be okay. Allow yourself to disappoint. Ask yourself first, what do I need? What do I need? And sometimes the answer will surprise you. I just need to see my parents. Okay, well then going to see them is not a disappointment. Saying yes is wonderful. I just need rest. Okay, then maybe disappointing them by not showing up for the thing this weekend is okay because you're first taking care of you. And I want you to just recognize that when we avoid disappointing ourselves before we allow ourselves to disappoint someone else, we are taking responsibility for how we feel and not making it somebody else's job. Boo! Imagine if you could let everyone off the hook. Listen, you are not responsible for making me feel good. And isn't that interesting how often we'll suggest something, we'll go, I hope they say no, I hope they say no, or I hope they cancel. I said I'd do the thing, but I hope she cancels. If you hear yourself saying that, let that be an indicator that you get to cancel. You get to change your mind. Even if you have already made a decision that was most definitely putting her needs or their needs over yours, you still get to change your mind. Isn't that amazing? What a sense of freedom. How light does that feel? Wait a minute, Tarryn. You mean just because I already said that I would give the track team all the food on Saturday and I realized I am too exhausted to go shopping or to bake the things, I can call and say, no, I'm not going to do it? Yes, that is what I'm talking about. It is okay to disappoint the track team if it avoids disappointing yourself. And for a moment, I want you to just realize what that does to your psyche. When you give yourself permission to stand up for yourself, you're telling your inner child, hey, I've got you. I'm taking care of you. There is someone looking out for you. As opposed to every time you put someone else's needs ahead of yours, what is that telling your inner child? Dude, you're not worthy of looking after. You're not enough. I'm not going to put you first. You actually come last in this game. I mean, as I'm saying those things, it's hurting my heart. How much healing and love can we give to ourselves simply by acknowledging that it's okay to hurt, to disappoint others? And that part of you that feels uncomfortable with it, I want you to just love that part of you too, because it is what makes you so beautiful and special. That part of you that says, oh, but Tarryn, it hurts to hurt others. Yeah, but the situation is hurting them. It's not you. You're just not giving the power of your time and your attention to someone else. You are choosing yourself. You're choosing yourself. You didn't create the situation. You're just creating a choice. You're making a choice to put yourself first. And I know that so many of us grew up with the opposite language, that other people's needs come first. So let it be okay that it's uncomfortable. Let it be okay to learn a new skill. You are still capable of being an amazing dentist, an amazing leader, an amazing mother, an amazing track team mom. Whatever it is that you are, you still can be incredible at what you do and avoid disappointing yourself before you don't allow yourself to disappoint others. I want you to just imagine a world where you came first. And when you come first, I know that little voice inside your head is going, oh my gosh, so selfish, so selfish, so selfish. Just for a moment. What do I know is true in this moment? And what do I need in this moment? What am I willing to do? What am I choosing to do? Put yourself back into the place of empowerment and the place of choice. See how good that feels. And allow the people around you to do the same for themselves. What? I know. What if by you choosing to put yourself first, you're allowing everyone else around you to do the same and to stand up for themselves and no longer be dependent on you. Imagine that. So as you go forward in this week, I want you to give yourself permission to disappoint as many people as it takes with the sole reason to avoid disappointing yourself. Give yourself permission to love others and allow others to be disappointed. It's not an and or. It's not an or. It's an and. You can do both at the same time. We don't have to choose. And can you give yourself permission to be loved? To receive love, even if you disappoint someone. Oof. Oh, but I disappointed her. Will she still love me? Yes. What if you gave yourself permission to still be lovable, even if you disappoint someone? And what if you just experimented with it and see how it goes? See what happens when you maintain those boundaries for yourself. It's very easy for us to set boundaries. It's a whole nother thing to maintain them. Can you allow yourself this level of boundary setting? I honor me, and I will not disappoint me in order to avoid disappointing somebody else. Just like I would never do it in treatment planning. I know what is best. I know what I can do in this moment. This treatment time, this appointment time is scheduled for this type of appointment. How many times has that happened in the office, right? Where you have 20 minutes to do a procedure that really needs 40. Sometimes it's a mistake at the front desk. Things happen, right? And you get to be honest with the patient. And maybe sometimes it's going to disappoint them. We're going to do 50%. And then I'd love for you to come back and we'll find a good time that suits you, and we'll do the rest of this appointment, the rest of this procedure. Oh, but it took me 2 hours. It takes me so long to drive here. I have 3 kids, and it's really hard. Oh, I understand. That makes so much sense. That sounds really hard. In order for me to do my very best work for you, these 20 minutes are specific to this procedure, and I'm going to do such a good job for you. And then it will necessitate you coming back for the second part. Allowing yourself that expertise and to not disappoint yourself and push through and think, oh my gosh, I can just squeeze this in and eat into my lunch and it'll be okay. And then you feel fried and then you feel exhausted and then you're beating yourself up and then you're hearing that bizarre phrase that somebody once said when you were younger, that no good deed goes unpunished. Not true. Maybe you just chose not disappointing somebody else instead of choosing not to disappoint yourself. And you get to put yourself first. And beautiful things will happen. And you're still worthy of love. And you're still worthy of respect. In fact, I argue even more so. Because when you feel good, that is when you can do good. Bye-bye. Hey, beauty, if you enjoyed this episode, then like and subscribe to the show and receive this beautiful message of empowerment, remembering what you are capable of and the purpose you serve in this world every single week. And if you know of a colleague who needs this message, share this episode with her. This is how we raise the collective in healthcare, reminding one another and supporting one another. Community is the answer. This is how we grow it. And lastly, I invite you to a phenomenal in-person event this October 2024, the Empower Her Retreat, exclusively for women in medicine and dentistry on the beach. It will change your life. And I cannot wait to see you there. Check out the details in the show notes and have a phenomenal day remembering that you are enough.